So far you've got a game up and running. You've set the game level, you've put some tiles in it so that some wall tiles in it to stop the player moving from the screen, and you've got an escape screen as well. So when you finally reach the goal, the end, you get a victory screen. But at the moment, it's a little bit dull because there's no challenge to the game. And in this section, you're going to add some baddies, some collidable objects that the player has to avoid in order to get to the escape section, the escape tiles. So the baddies we're going to add are two circles, some quite simple circles. And every time the player collides with them, he's going to lose a life. And when they get to 0 lives, you get a screen pop up, a bit like the victory screen, but this one says game over. Before we start doing that though, we need to add a little bit of code to our player to keep a track of how many lives they've got, as well as a couple of other things as well. Mainly, we're going to add everything in, mainly to stop you going back and forth. So I'm going to go to Objects, and I'm going to open Object Player. And I'm going to add a third event into my code, and this event is Create. And I'm going to pick GML Visual. I'm going to click OK. And move my mouse so I can see the screen here. Now, the create event is what happens when the game first starts. When the object player is created, this code will run, and it will run only once. And what we're going to do, we're going to create 3 variables. I'm going to click in here and I'm going to type global. And this is the piece of code I'm after, set global variable. And I'm going to drag it across. And it asks me whether I want the name of the variable I want and the value. And I'm going to put in here, I'm going to put lives. And then I'm going to set the value to 3. And that variable is going to represent the number of lives that the player has. And that will change when they collide with things. And then I'm going to drag another one over here, which is the second variable I'm going to create, and I'm going to call this keys collected, and I'm going to leave that set to 0. Now we're going to use keys collected later because we're going to add a feature to the game whereby the player has to collect all the keys in the game before they can escape, but we're going to set that to 0 because they start with 0 keys. And I'm going to drag a third one across, and this one I'm going to call can collide. And I'm going to set the value of this to 1. And can collide, I won't explain can collide right now, but it refers to whether or not colliding with one of the baddies will reduce the player's lives. We're going to focus on lives over this video, and and possibly can collide as well, but I've asked you to put all those variables in because it just makes it easier to do them all at once. So I'm going to close that off. Close. So with the variables set up, I'm now going to create the sprite and the object to represent our baddies, and I'm going to right click on sprite, create sprite. I'm going to call this sprite circle, because just like a triangle represents the player, because it's ShapeWorld, we're going to have circles representing the bad guys. And I'm going to click edit image. I'm going to go to ellipse, and then I'm going to pick a red color. I'm going to draw the ellipse on the screen. Then I'm going to close my sprite circle, and I'm going to close it in the workplace as well. And then I'm going to right click on object and go to create object, and this I'm going to call object circle. And the sprite I'm going to assign to it is the one that I've just created. And then I'm going to close that, and then I'm going to open my room, my level 1 room, by double clicking on it, and I'm going to drag at this point just one of the objects, one of the object circles into the screen, into the level. If you get any error messages talking about layers, this object circle is going into the instances layer, so make sure that the instances layer is selected before you add it. So with our baddies in place, we're going to take a little bit of a detour, because we need something to display the number of lives that the player has on screen. So I'm going to do that by, first of all, creating a font that we can use. So I'm going to move over to the fonts folder, right click, create, and pick font. And you'll see this box pop up here with the kind of font settings that you'll see in any typical application. You can change the font itself. You can check whether it's bold. You can increase its size. But the first thing I'm going to do is change the name of the font. So I'm going to call this FNT for font. I'm just going to call it main, font main, to indicate that this is a font that we're going to use all of the time. I'm not going to change anything else except the size. I'm going to change it to about 24 just to make it a little bit bigger. Once I've done that, I'm just going to close that off there. And you notice the font size change. I'm also going to create an object because I need something that holds the text that we're going to display on screen to indicate the number of lives. So I'm going to right click on objects, create object, and I'm going to call this obj lives counter. So with the font created and the lives counter in place, I'm going to scroll a little this way and I'm going to click add event. And I'm going to create, for this lives counter, I'm going to create a create event, some code that's going to run when the lives counter is created. And what I want this code to do is I want to tell the object that it's going to use the font we've just created. So I'm going to type font, and I'm going to use set font, and I'm going to click the little button, go into fonts, and pick font main. And then I'm going to change the font color because the default color is white, and that's going to clash a little bit with our background. So I'm going to type in color here, and it's this set draw color in drawing, and I'm going to pull that across. Currently the font is white. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to click up here in the corner to pick sort of a bright reddy color. And when I've done that, I'm going to click OK. So that's the create event. I'm then going to close that off. I'm going to pull it a little bit in the middle. I'm going to click add event, and this event I'm going to use is draw. I'm going to click draw. I'm going to use GML visual, click OK, drag it across. So the draw event is an event that draws something to the screen every single frame. And we can draw using the functions from the drawing category, and this one I'm going to pick is draw value. And where it says caption, I'm going to change that to lives, and you'll notice that I'm including the speech marks in there. And value, I want it to be the number of lives that the player has got. And if you remember, we set that as a global variable. So I'm going to type global, and you'll see this little picker pops up. I'm going to put full stop, and when I start typing lives, you'll see that the global variable lives pops up. I'm going to click that, and I'm just going to change X and Y to 25 just to sort of offset it from the side of the screen. And I'm going to close that, close that, close that, and now open my room. Then I'm going to drag the object's lives count. I'm going to bob it in the corner up there. You'll see it comes in as a little question mark, and that's okay. And now when I click play, you'll see that it's displaying the lives in the top left corner. I'll close the game off.